Welcome back. I did the puzzle. That was kind of embarrassing to get it wrong. It only requires you to press 2 buttons or so to get it right. And the first time I went through the game, I pressed them perfectly and just got it right away. This time I botched it. Anyway, once you go through here, you can go to the back of the ziggurat. Now, as I was saying before, I so rudely interrupted myself. When you're building a world like this, where you're supposed to engage with the levels, because you've got these really interesting, interestingly placed collectibles, you have to build a lot of level. And that's not trivial. Even if you have a small setup like this with, lo-fi aesthetics, you still have to build a lot of level, and that's a ton of work. So, keep that in mind if you're thinking about how you want to set your stuff up. This kind of collectathon gameplay doesn't require you to have enemies to shoot, but it does require you to have a lot of level. Pretty sure I could get in there before. Yeah, here it is. This is how I play these games. And most of the time I get rewarded, but not this time. I suppose I could meditate and check that way, but I don't wanna. Just a quick check here. So now we're in the rear area where all of the high rollers get kept, and there are a few things here that we're gonna need. This is not one of those things, but we're gonna get it anyway. And just as usual, what I'm doing is I am going around in the wrong order, because that's my instinct when I play games. And this is something that's always at odds with level design. And that's one of the things I keep bringing up about this game. This is something that they encourage with their level design and their gameplay, which is collecting crap. And I think that's just really fun. And, I'm going to keep repeating that forever, I bet. Or at least for the rest of the series that I'm putting together here. Anyway, we got to go and raid some graves. It's a real shame about the murder. Hard to have a good time when everybody's so worked up. I'm trying, though. Really am. I'm off to hunt crows. You go have fun hunting the backwards flying crows. Hey there, dude. I sort of think that this temple might have been fairly early on in the design sequence. Either that or very, very late. Because it doesn't flow like the rest of the game does. There's a lot of places you can go that aren't rewarding, which is not something that you normally find in this game. Anyway, we've got 2 high roller graves to investigate. This is the first one we're going to work with here. We're trying to solve some of these nightmare computer interfaces. There we go. And now look, we needed the Cosmos to get this one open, which is why we couldn't get it open until nowish. So it's this star, and then there's 2 more things. It's probably this one and this one. Hey, and then back to the goat. And this is similar to using, a lockpick set in something like Hillsfar. And there's so much cool stuff we could do there. Blood vial. Grace bloodlines obtained. Blood vials are sealed into coffins so that they can't be used illicitly after death. Why is One Last Kiss directing me to Grace Bloodline's blood vial? One Last Kiss is the ghost we met early on, and she, of course, is directing us to Grace Bloodline's blood vial because she's Grace Bloodlines. Yeah.
What the hell?
Hey there. Been a while.
Got it.
You could only know that code if you were Grace Bloodlines, our chief exorcist. You were murdered by Henry when he was arrested. Those are facts, but are they the truth? They're not facts, nor are they the truth.
Enjoy Perfect Man Sank, investigator. That's weird.
Your murder was a setup? Or was it the wrong place at the wrong time? Who can say? The truth is all around you, investigator. You should read this. What is it? The official report of the murder of Grace Bloodlines. Do you know something about the Holy Seals? Let's talk about that later. I'm not done with you. Investigator, aren't you happy about last night? That depends on your perspective. You've benefited directly from this mass murder. No more exile for the great investigator. There is corruption on this island, investigator. Demonic taint is the least of our worries when the syndicate is rotten. The council deserved nothing less. Sounds like you have a motive. The syndicate is built on dead bodies. Egos and ambitions can only be sustained by death. I'm a casualty on that path, left to bleed out for somebody's benefit. Can you imagine who would benefit? What benefit that would be? The council deserved to die, sliced to ribbons. The syndicate is full of plotters and conspirators. So many of them have their little games. Last night, someone played the winning hand. I have some answers. Where were you at the time of the murder? I have no alibi. I'm a fucking ghost. You're the only person on the island that knows that I exist. I'm not actually sure if that's true. It might very well be. I can't remember anybody else admitting that she exists.
Don't test me.
The syndicate are all backstabbers, which is definitely true. If you believe there is a conspiracy, break one of the suspects at trial. They'll crumble and will turn on each other. Now, this is actually the main way that you know that you're right at the end of the game. If you don't collect every piece of evidence that you find, if you don't get absolutely everything, then you might not be entirely sure about how things went down. And you can tell you're right because if you pick the right target, they will immediately start to implicate others. But you don't have to pick the right target. There's nothing preventing you from picking the wrong target. The game still proceeds just fine.
That's weird. Sure.
Henry became possessed, and the arresting officer was Akiko. Akiko requested the presence of Grace Bloodlines, the Syndicate's exorcist. This was long after Weed left, of course, so Grace Bloodlines was pretty much the only person on the island doing that job.
Don't test me.
During the exorcism, Akiko left the room, and Henry took the opportunity to kill Grace by strangulation. His demonic strength allowed him to break through his restraints and quickly kill her. He apparently carved the same symbols scarched into his skin onto Grace's body.
Don't test me.
Before his arrest, Henry murdered his own mother, Rena Division.
I don't like
He strangled her and scorched her body with demonic sigils.
Sure.
So, this is actually a very important clue, and unfortunately I've scrolled down too far. That good, I can scroll right back up. So here you can see he apparently carved the same symbols scorched into his skin into Grace's body. Similarly, he theoretically daubed those sigils into the ground in blood around the guards he killed last night. But with his mom, he burned the demonic sigils. See? He strangled her and scorched her body with demonic sigils. So why would he scorch one person's body and cut the other ones? See, and if you get here before you're talking to Akiko, the questions are starting to pile up for Akiko. And this is one of the weaknesses of this game. If you don't do full sweeps, it can be quite possible to get a ton of information about one particular person before you've even met them. And unfortunately, the interrogation sequences that you go through don't really let you leverage that or make you feel like you're, blowing through secrets or anything. It just kind of like makes things a little bit more heavy, like stuff just kind of tumbles out of the bag like you dropped a sack full of hammers. Or a sack full of tennis balls. Something that will fall out when you drop it. This one is substantially more difficult. The Grave of Eyes Kiwami. This is related to the second conspiracy, which is why it's so much harder.
Got it.
So this one doesn't take all three, but it doesn't take all four, that is. But it does take two of them, and they're not the same two. The other one required Goat and Cosmos, which are both pretty easy to get. This one requires Pyramids and Warship, both of which are actually fairly challenging. That one was real tough. Do, 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 do. What? Really? Aha. That one's Warship is a really uncommon one. I think there's only like 3 or 4 locks that require it, so I don't have it really strongly memorized or anything.
The investigator is here.
Kiwami's blood vial, and this is the most dangerous object in the game. And the reason for that is because it's the only object in the game that can get one of the people on the island angry at you.
God, I don't. Ooh, the
Eyes was
investigator is
Henry's
here.
father. So Eyes was the father of the person who is our stooge. Why does that matter? Yeah.
Key item obtained.
So I kind of blew that off, but it sort of matters, but it only really matters if you buy into the idea that he's actually supposed to be the murderer, and he's just not. I mean, it's super, super obvious that he's not. This is where the ghost hangs out. We've talked to her quite a bit, though. I'm not sure whether or not we want to keep talking to her, but I do think we should unlock this one so that we don't have to worry about that later on. Should we talk to One Last Kiss? I mean, we just talked to her. Let's go ahead and finish off the episode with a talk with One Last Kiss here. Got time to chat? I have all the time in the world until the island ends.
Sure.
I want to ask you about being deceived by a god. You're the expert in that. Okay, thanks. You are our exorcist. You're the expert in all things astral. I want to know how it happens. The victim catches the attention of a god. The god begins to speak to them in their dreams. Why do you think you caught the attention of a god? I was the head of the Paradise Psycho Unit, a perfect target for the machinations of a god looking for power.
There is corruption on
Damned
this
Harmony
island,
saw an
investigator.
opportunity with you, the key that would unlock the syndicate. He wanted to kill us all and feed off the released psychic energy, which is what we do. We actually kill all of the people on the island at the end of each island sequence and then direct that energy to our own ends, which I believe is mostly feeding it to the gods in hopes that they come back to life. But it might also be used in, I don't know, finishing up the creation of the next island or something. The Immortal Syndicate have a lot of energy to give off. He might have resurrected. I like how he's a dead god trying to finagle his own resurrection. It's a classic trope. Do not swim in the sea of guilt, investigator. Deception is subtle and insidious. You were a victim.
Who would benefit from a crime like these?
We can also ask her demonology questions, which is a category we don't usually get. These are just like ordinary questions, though. So we'll just quickly burn through some of the generics.
What mysteries are around us?
Everybody's lying. Yeah. What do you know about Henry's demonic possession? So this is not a
The truth
throwaway,
is all around you, investigator.
but it seems like it. He's giving you the hint that you need to check the library, but you don't ever figure out where the library is unless you stumble across it. It's behind the big pink building. There's no, like, giant signs pointing to it.
Those are facts, but are they the truth?
So her generics are all helpful, which is kind of handy if you're really doing poorly. But really, she doesn't tell you anything besides, you know, go ask the other people.
Do you understand, investigator?
What about reaching for the sky? That's a hint to go to the tops of the buildings where you'll find the first conspiracy clues. Maybe we'll do that next. So here's something important. I was meeting with Carmelina, but Grand Marshal Akiko called me over because someone needed an exorcism. One of her obsessions had been creating structures which repel demonic corruption. That's the glowy ground that we see in the dead zone. She asked me to come. She has to come with me to view the exorcism.
Strange.
It's not normal, but I understood her interest. We arrived and she inspected the scene before I started my exorcism. She left to wait outside the apartment. Henry was secured and Akiko stepped out of the room to speak to Carmelina. I slipped into my meditative trance to perform the
Are
exorcism.
you happy with your truths?
I was lost in the maelstrom with no sense of place or direction.
Dreadful.
Then the life was being choked out of me. I have no idea who the attacker was or which direction they came from. I died. A short while later, I was floating above the island. I felt an all-consuming rage. I drifted towards the heavens, but my fury allowed me to claw my way back. Now, here I am.
Those are facts. But are they the truth?
In your professional opinion, could a demon possessing Henry keep Henry alive in the depths of space? I've never seen it happen, but This is just them trying to sell Henry, even though we know he's not important. I was just checking to see whether or not
Sure.
any of this stuff was stuff we hadn't heard of yet or had other sort of pieces, but it doesn't seem like there's anything here that we need to worry about. It seems like it's the same everywhere else.
Do you understand, investigate? Got it. I have... What the hell? I have a bad... The truth is all around you.
Akiko wants non-military roles to be taken up by her troops. I was on her list. She saw dealing with demons as a military
There is
problem.
corruption on
Exorcisms
this island,
really shouldn't be done
investigator.
by soldiers. They're not trained for it. So she's saying that she's actually not giving you the correct reason why Akiko would cooperate, but she's giving you a reason.
Laughable.
Witness is damaged. He's whipped himself up into a religious craze. Before I died, he came to see me. He had questions about demons, and I was the exorcist. He'd become fixated on the idea that a sea of demons could crash upon the island and wipe us all out. A flood sent by the gods to wash away sin.
The investigator... Mystery awaits.
Are there signs to look for? Can we divine from the stars if a flood is coming? Harmless questions for someone who has the responsibility of overseeing the end of the islands. His role is to look for signs that an island is going to end and make sure that death and birth happen properly. The innocuous questions came first. Then he started to ask about initiating a demonic invasion or using demons as weapons. We already know that even after One Last Kiss died, he continued with these ideas because he has a demon cage in the dead zone that only he has access to, and he's been visiting it quite recently.
Got it. Crime is repulsive.
Do you think Witness was trying to use demons to cleanse the island? I don't know. We do know. Maybe not about whether he's using them to cleanse the islands, but he definitely was doing things with them.
Aren't you paying attention, investigator?
So that's all the clues, I think. Let's get onto the demonology.
Do you understand, investigator?
So, Carmelina's plan to block demonic corruption is flawed. The demons would be repelled from the island structures, but would still possess our cattle. They will scapegoat the citizens. He could come down fiercer on them, a nice move for an aspiring despot. So if the demons can't take over the ground, they'll take over the people on the ground.
What the hell?
That isn't the Montserrat I remember. Immortality isn't a good thing. It warps the mind. He followed in the footsteps of Ezekiel. Ezekiel is the person who first set up the council. They went too far. The new island is born, and you will have to live with it. How has Carmelina demon-proofed the island? Demons and gods are just alien beings from another world. They enter our world through psychic pathways that bridge huge distances. Traveling along a pathway breaks down the demon's form. Their psychic image crosses space and gathers as solid matter when they arrive on the island. The marshals hunt these demons down and exterminate them. Soldiers have their uses. But when demons don't manage to assume a fully corporeal form, they soak into the physical structure of the island. That apostrophe is bothering me.
Aren't you paying
The rot
attention,
sets in,
investigator?
and the island must end. Carmelina and Masahiro Heavy Industries developed a new technique that repels the corruption. Their plan is to charge the particles in our air, stopping demons from being able to latch onto the physicality of the island. The very concrete will repel demons. That's the dirty secret. Demons will still come to the island. They need somewhere to go, so the next best thing is the minds of the citizens. Perfect 25 will be a hotbed of demonic possession. Human minds are malleable and porous. Unlike concrete, we have a certain amount of latent psychic ability. The structure of the island will be safe and permanent, but the citizens are the sacrifice being made.
What mysteries are around us?
So there's a lot of things here that don't have anything to do with the actual game, but they're really cool and interesting. This kind of world building doesn't really end up meaning anything in this game. And I don't think that they're setting up a second title, but it would be a really easy thing to use as you know, Paradise Killer 2, the 25th Island. It's a really cool set of ideas, and it's a really gamey set of ideas. It's a set of ideas you could make a game about, and I don't mean like a murder investigation game like this one. Like, I could make an island building game with these rules, and it would be really interesting. And so that's why it's so interesting to me, because these are really flexible, powerful ideas.
Ooh, the investigator is here.
So here they're just talking about gods,
Dreadful.
but this isn't important either. It's just stuff to get you into the game and having some fun and making it feel like everything is real. And every time I have one of these episodes, it's going to be 20 minutes of me talking to somebody, because there's always 20 minutes of stuff to talk about with each person. But this is the most important clue in the game. Yep. That's the thing, that's the clue that the people who don't actually beat the game fully don't actually notice. They missed that one. They have to go back there with something to smash it at some point, or they will not get the full secrets of the game. We're definitely going to go back there and smash it at some point. We could have done that today, or in this episode, or next episode. But I don't want to reveal what's down there for quite a while. I wanna wait until we have the basics, because that's the last conspiracy. That's the big one. So we'll leave that for later, and we'll leave everything for later, because this is the end of the episode, and we have prayed to the dead and talked to the dead and dated the dead and all that stuff. So yeah. Good times were had by all.